Hillary Clinton is a real dumbass, and she's proving it right now, even as I speak, on November 28, 2016. I don't know why anybody ever thought that woman was remotely qualified to be president, because as I've already said, she's proving right now what a dumbass she is. Back in 1993, the Democrats had control of the White House, the House, and the Senate. And of course, Madam Clinton's husband, Bill, was president at that time, and he assigned her the responsibility of working out health care. They wanted to do health care reform back then to get everybody insured, which is a very good idea and needs to happen. But Hillary didn't get it done. As a matter of fact, she got her ass handed to her by her own party, the Democratic Party. They had 2 years to get something done, and they never got it done. Her proposal, known as Hillary Care, never got anywhere. Well, fast forward all these years to November 2016, and Hillary really believed that she was going to win the election. Her and her supporters just couldn't possibly imagine how she wouldn't win the election. It was just inevitable. It had to happen because they thought that for some reason Hillary was owed the election. She was owed the presidency. And why they thought she was owed it, I'm not sure, because what she's done in the past is hold some jobs. Anybody can do that. And also, as a member of the Senate, she co-sponsored some bills, which anybody can do that in the whole Congress. Anybody can co-sponsor bills. It's not a big deal. So she held jobs and she co-sponsored bills. And by the way, during the time that she was in the Senate, most of that time the Republicans controlled the Senate. So anything that she did as far as getting bills passed, it was simply maybe getting some extra things done with Republican bills, because that's pretty much all that got through during her time in the Senate. But in 2016, she absolutely believed that she was going to win the election. All her supporters believed that too. They could not imagine how anybody could beat Hillary, because they thought she was just the most wonderful person in the world to be president. And so their idea was that minorities were going to come out in force and they were going to push Hillary over the top. What they didn't count on was the fact that other people might possibly walk away from her. And they did. And they did so for economic reasons, because in spite of all the great work that Obama did with the stimulus and getting the economy turned around, there's been a tremendous problem over most of the last 8 years, and that the vast majority of the jobs created have been part-time jobs or low-paying, low-salary, low-wage jobs with minimal benefits. The jobs that have been created during the recovery following the Great Recession just haven't been that good. And people have been very angry with that. And there is a large section of the population that doesn't just want relief, doesn't just want program, but they also want good paying jobs. And there has been a dearth of good paying jobs. And they couldn't see how people would be angry about that and actually turn out against Hillary. And so, in the lead up to the election, there was all of this concern about whether Donald Trump would accept the election results. And Hillary and all her supporters, they just thought it was so horrible, it was so terrible that Donald Trump said he might not accept the results of the election and might fight it, because Hillary said that it was something that is to be expected of anybody who runs for president, that they accept the results of the election. And so then what happens? They lose the election. And does their attitude do a 180 then? Suddenly it's not important to accept the results of the election, because when they were advocating accepting the results of the election, that was based on the Hillary winning paradigm. It wasn't based on anything else. Hillary losing was absolutely inconceivable. They just couldn't believe that that would ever happen, but it did happen. And so now Hillary and Hollywood and the Democratic establishment are all just completely stunned that she lost the election, and suddenly, since it's Donald Trump who is now the president-elect, accepting the election results doesn't carry the same weight that it did before. So is there a little hypocrisy going on there? I think there is. The only reason that they were so enthusiastic about accepting the election results is that they thought it would be their opponent who would have to accept the election results. They never imagined that it would be them. And I think the fact that Hillary and all of her supporters didn't see this coming is an indication of just being plain dumb, just being plain stupid. So now they want to contest the results of the election, have recounts in 3 states, and make no mistake about it. The intent is to overturn the election. That's what the intent is. That's the only reason to do that. It's not simply to ensure the integrity of the system. Unfortunately, Hillary has forgotten who she's dealing with, because in the 2016 elections, Republicans won the House and Republicans won the Senate. So what would happen if Hillary and her forces were able to overturn the election and she was actually able to be sworn in January? Because she apparently hasn't thought about that. What would happen is that the Republican Congress would spend 4 years extracting revenge from what they consider to be an illegitimate Clinton administration. None of her bills would get passed. Well, actually, that was going to happen anyway. That was going to turn out anyway if she'd won, because the House of Representatives was going to remain Republican. There was no doubt about that. And so she was never going to get anything through Congress anyway. But as it turned out, Republicans kept both the House and the Senate. And so if there were to be a President Hillary as a result of these recounts, not likely unless there's massive fraud in the recounts, which I think people probably ought to have some concerns about that someone might actually try to steal the election. But if she were to get sworn in, there's still going to be that Republican Congress. None of her bills are going to get anywhere. And guess what? They would not have to confirm any of her appointments. So they could effectively cripple her administration just by not confirming anybody. A friend of mine asked me, how can Congress not get away with how can Congress get away with not confirming and not holding hearings on Merrick Garland, the guy that Obama appointed or tried to appoint to the Supreme Court? And it's just that simple. They won their election, and the Constitution gives them that power. So Congress would not have to, the Senate would not have to confirm any of Hillary's appointments. And then none of her bills would go through, and it would essentially be a paralyzed administration, and her administration would literally be made a living hell by the Republican Party. And no, there wouldn't be a public outcry, and people wouldn't rise up against them because they just keep right on winning. And it's all about winning elections. But beyond the fact of not confirming any of her appointments and crippling the administration that way, and also not passing anything that she sent to Congress, another thing that would surely happen a few months down the road, you'd be reading the headline, House impeaches Clinton. Because they absolutely do have the votes in the House of Representatives if they wanted to impeach Clinton. Now, the question arises, would she be convicted in the Senate? Possibly not, because I think it requires 60 votes, and the Republicans don't have that big of a majority. But if Hillary were to steal the election and get into the White House, her administration would be pure hell, because the Congress would block all of her bills. They could block all of her appointments if they wanted to. They could not let her appoint anybody to the federal judiciary. And she apparently, at this stage, doesn't even see that coming if the election were to be overturned. Now, what do you call that? I call it just plain stupid. So, Hillary is not that smart after all. People have painted her as the most qualified person in the history of the United States to ever run. I don't think that's anywhere close to the case. I think because of everything that I've just told you, Hillary's just a damn dumbass. And the best thing that could happen to the United States, or one of the best things, would be for her to simply disappear from the scene so that hopefully some real progressives can come forward in about 4 years. Thanks, and have a good day.